Sihle Zikalala officially resigned yesterday as the premier of that province. Our senior reporter Siphamandla Goge is on standby to speak to him now. And Siphamandla, there were these predictions that his unsuccessful bid for re-election could lead to one of the possible permutations being that he doesn't finish his term of office as premier. But my goodness, I did not expect that it would come so soon.
Absolutely. You are not the only one. Many people did not expect that it was going to come so soon, especially because there were reassurances from the newly elected officials of the ANC in KwaZulu Natal that, according to Peggy Mtolo, quote unquote, the premier is safe. Immediately after the election of the new officials of the ANC at the provincial conference, that question about the future of the premier was put to the officials of the ANC. All of them said the premier was safe. We do understand that they tried to persuade him to stay, but I guess Sihle Zikalala, having grown up in the Congress movement, he knows very well that without political power and authority, it was going to be difficult. Let me not speak for him. He's here to speak for himself. KZN, happy birthday, Baba. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot. It's one of those days that are very important in my life, and I'm grateful that I happen to spend it with children here in Inanda. It has been a great day so far. Kuyenzeka nje ukuthi ushiye ngebirthday yakho kudinga ukuthi ushiye ubhekane nezinye izinto empilweni.
But what happened, because we were assured by the leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu Natal that you were safe? Were you pushed or you decided to go?
Well, we have been in consultation and engaging with the leadership of the ANC in the province. And I must be honest that the leadership have assured us that as a premier I will be safe, but true that they still need me as a premier to continue with the work I was doing. But there are a number of factors that one considered and arrived at a determination that it was important that I leave. More so because of the political environment that is polluted. And as a cadre of the movement, I've learned that it is always important that you avoid problems. But two, it is important that you assist the movement if the movement is facing challenges. You must not be a bone of contention. You must not be a center of a problem if you are a kid. So to be specific, while comrades said you are safe, you can continue as a premier, it is a fact that leading toward the provincial conference, there was an atmosphere, a mobilization that said, no, Sihle and others, you have betrayed former President Zuma. That view became a view that was peddled in the organization.
It was not new, though. It's been there
was
for
not
a very
new.
long
It
time.
has been there. But if you will properly consider the people who are in leadership and those who have been in leadership before in KwaZulu Natal, maybe you will say I'm one of the few who have been with former President Zuma. If I can tell you, on the evening of the 14th of June, 2005, myself and Balula were at OR Tambo House with President Zuma, Deputy President at that time. So we have supported him since then till now. And to have people peddling lies and saying, no, you have betrayed former President Zuma is discouraging. And I say that not to say it's him, but there are people who formulated that theory so that they will dent and undermine our leadership. This then escalated to become a view even in the society and beginning to plant a feeling that we are not trusted. And because of that, I realized that the environment was not going to be correct, was not going to be good and conducive to continue leading.
But in 2021, you were quoted as saying the ANC was no longer going to support former President Jacob Zuma. Were you misquoted there?
That was misquoted. We clarified it clearly that at that time when the ANC said, the NEC said, no one is allowed to support former President Zuma in the name of the ANC. We said we are accepting and noting that decision, but we will go there even if we are going on our own capacity as individuals. So that quotation, in fact, was misleading, and we attended to it at that time.
I want us to park the issue of former President Jacob Zuma. We'll get to it because he remains a dominant political player in the politics of the ANC in KwaZulu Natal and in South Africa. So let's park former President Jacob Zuma. Let's talk about how are you feeling now? Are you disappointed? Are you hurt? Are you angry?
No. Let me firstly conclude. The second point why I left is the whole issue that we have worked. We've worked. If you will compare what we inherited, the state at the time, we inherited, and the state now, we've performed our best, to our best ability. We entered with, I think there were 2 clean audits. We are departing today having 7 clean audits in KwaZulu Natal. It is for the first time in history. We entered in 2018, 2019, the irregular expenditure was about 12.4, and we're departing now. It is 6.8. That management, it is high, but having reduced it so much in just a period of what? 3 years. That state of affairs, that kind of management needed political authority. And you cannot be able to exert that political authority if you are not in the leadership of the ANC.
Were you disappointed that you were not elected into the PEC of the ANC in KwaZulu Natal?
No, that for me, it's water under the bridge. Of course, I was prepared to continue serving in the PEC of the ANC.
Why do you think they rejected you?
It is the first issue that I started with. The whole issue of the misinformation that was peddled, that we have betrayed former President Zuma.
Let's come back now to the ANC in KwaZulu Natal. Yes, you've decided to leave. Your critics will say perhaps you were trying to avoid what happened in 2015 with former Chair and Premier Senzo Mchunu. You realized that without political authority, you are quote-unquote weak. Is that how you looked at it?
No, it's not how I looked at it. You will remember that when that happened, there were a number of discussions in the PEC and even in the NEC leading to the decision to be taken. And I felt on my own that it is important that I leave because I should allow the alignment of the ANC and government. And at some point, it is correct to accept that you have to be led. I didn't leave the legislature. I will still be in the legislature. I will still support the elected leadership. And I will support the premier and the executive that will be elected.
The ANC in KwaZulu Natal says they are really considering you for the position of becoming the member of the Executive Council, the MEC. Those who support you would say that's a demotion, but the ANC in KwaZulu Natal is adamant that they cannot lose your skill, your talent, your experience. Would you take that offer to serve as the MEC should it be presented to you?
Look, I wouldn't want to answer that question as exacting pressure that I must be appointed.
No, but
what I said to the ANC is that I will accept any other position except that of being a premier.
Meaning you would take the position of being the
I
MEC?
will take a position of being a chair of a portfolio committee, of being an MEC or any other position except that of being the face of government.
But even though you say you left because you felt that many people were spreading misinformation about your position in support of the former president, but don't you think in hindsight you should have at least stayed while you were trying to deal with, dispelling that myth that you call it, that you know or you did not dump the former president?
Well, while you try to solve that problem, as you are saying, maybe I should have stayed and tried to address this myth. The myth on its own was not going to stop at that time. It was going to continue causing a problem for the ANC. And at the end, it was going to be like it's the ANC versus the Premier. Or some in the ANC are mobilizing against the Premier. So the best is to solve the problem. And in this regard, the option that one was left with in solving the problem was just to request to leave and resign as the Premier.
But if
you don't have to, it must be also, we must also understand that you don't have to have serious problems so that you leave. You must always make things easy for the organization to go forward. But you cannot keep the organization with problems and hope that it is for the organization to solve problems. Be a solution on your own as a cadre.
But you realize that you are the solution after losing political power.
Well, all along, not because if you are a chair of the ANC, you have to hold on and push up until the next conference. And in that responsibility, really, you can't drop the ball and leave in between. So it is important that you carry that political responsibility till the next conference. And that's why at the conference I made a statement. I said, in 2018, you mandated us as branches of the ANC to lead the organization. Here we are now. We are bringing back the organization more united than it was in 2018. And you will agree with me, the organization we inherited in 2018 was divided. We were divided from our own provincial conference of 2015. We were divided along the lines of the NASREC National Conference. But in 2018, we said, let's come together. We forged unity. And I must salute comrades who have been with us in the leadership. Comrade Mike Mabuya Kulu, Comrade Mtumseni, all comrades, the Deputy Secretary and the Treasurer. We tried to forge unity. And the organization is much united than what we were, the stage we were in 2018, 2015.
At the center of those divisions, dating back in 2015, leading up to 2018, your critics again will point out to the fact that you were at the center of those divisions in the ANC in KwaZulu Natal.
I'm not sure whether that will be genuine to say I was at the center. We will not say this one is divided alone. If you say the organization is divided, there is one on there are others on the other side and others on the other side. What is important is that we have healed, we have gone past that division, we are uniting, we have united the organization, and the organization is going forward.
Credit to you and your collective leadership at the time. Indeed, the ANC in KwaZulu Natal was able to go towards all the 11 regional conferences without issues. You convened the provincial conference within a set time frame. Looking forward now, where to from here for Sihle Zikalala? I know you have said you will remain in the provincial legislature or executive. There have been talks that following your engagement with President Cyril Ramaphosa on the sidelines of the National Policy Conference of the ANC in NASREC, your future was discussed. Many people have been speculating that you could be joining the national government. Is that true?
No, that's not true, and I know nothing about it. My future is in the ANC. It is with my branch, the Million Mayor branch. That's where I participate. That's where I always play a role in shaping the ANC. I've grown up from that branch, right from the age of 17 up to today. So my future is still there in the Million Mayor branch where I belong, and I believe I will still play a role there. But secondly, I've got a responsibility as a member of the legislature to work with all branches and all councillors in Ndwedwe as an MPL deployed in that sub-region. So I will have to service the constituency, which is Ndwedwe constituency, and at the same time playing a role at the legislature.
You are likely now to report to Nomsa Dube-Ncube as the Premier of KwaZulu Natal. The ANC in KwaZulu Natal has submitted 3 names, Nomsa Dube-Ncube, Mbali Fraser and Amanda Pan. the priority name, according to the ANC in KZN, is that of Nomusa Dube. There have been reports about your relationship with her, political relationship. Many people said you did not see eye to eye with her. That's why when you were still the Premier, you had to remove her from the Department of Economic Development, redeploy her to the provincial treasurer. Don't you think it will be awkward to work with her?
In, I think, 1998, I was a regional chairperson of the Youth League. Begisbia was the secretary of the region, and Nomsa Dube was the deputy secretary. So I've worked with Nomsa for a long period. As I can remember, maybe from the mid-90s until now. So I wouldn't say I have a problem with her. We have worked with her even now. And the issues that made us to move her from the economic development to treasury has nothing to do with personal relationship. And in the ANC, we don't put personal relations above the interest of the organization.
How was your political relationship with her?
We have always worked together, smooth, cordial, and enjoying good relations with her.
Let's come back to the point about former President Jacob Zuma, because you seem to suggest that at the center of your departure is the issue around the former president. Have you spoken to the former president since not being re-elected as the chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu Natal?
I will be going to meet her soon. I wouldn't know the date. I will arrange the date. But that's just been 14 days after the provincial conference. I will talk to Ngqamalala. There is no problem between myself and Ngqamalala.
What are you going to say to him?
No, when I talk to him, I will talk politics with him, talk issues around how to support him. That's what we will discuss. But the issue does not necessarily revolve around former President Zuma. The issue are people who are using that in their own campaigning.
Who are those people?
And I wouldn't want to say who, but you would have noticed the people who have been singing Phuma Sihle, Phuma Sihle.
Does that song hurt you?
The song on its own is not nice, but it's not a question of being hurt. There are many things in the revolution that have hurt us than to be hurt by songs like that. We come from a serious period of challenges. The fact that people can sing that whilst we are together, it means that they don't hate us, but they are just expressing their own view.
But Mr. Zikalala, if my memory serves me well, I was there in Pietermaritzburg. You will correct me if I'm wrong. Yourself and the former Provincial Secretary Mtumseni Ntuli were booed when former President Jacob Zuma was appearing in court, because those who booed you felt that you had dumped and deserted the former president. And after that, you did not do much to dispel that myth that you say has been there for a very long time. If I'm not mistaken, that was around October 2021 when you were booed in Pietermaritzburg.
Yes, what you are not mentioning is that on the very same day, former president won. In fact, he reprimanded those who booed us. He said, no, but you cannot do this on my name, because these are people who are here, these are comrades who are here to support me in particular. So that on its own tells you that this whole issue does not come from former president himself. Maybe you might be correct in saying we didn't do much to dispel that myth. But as cadres of the movement, we have not also been preoccupied about misinformation going around countering what people are saying. At some point, you need to dedicate your time in serving the people. We are in the ANC to serve the people and serve them genuinely. If those who continue or who peddle misinformation are preoccupied with that, that is their own task. Our task is to advance the revolution.
You were in a very awkward position whereby you needed to support the former president but work with the current president of the ANC, who was duly elected by the branches of the ANC at the Nazareth Congress in December 2017. Those who did not believe in your leadership said you sold out and that you wanted to become the Premier of KwaZulu Natal at all costs. You dumped Ngqamalala and decided, according to them, to switch allegiance and decide to work with ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, of which I don't understand how you were not going to work with him because he was elected by the branches.
Well, that's a problem, because once a leader is elected in the ANC, that leader needs firstly to accept that he is elected or she is elected. And he must lead everyone, those who elected him and those who didn't support his election. Equally, members of the ANC, once a leader is elected, they must all rally, unite, and support the elected leaders. We cautioned comrades post-2012. There were comrades who were saying in their provinces they were not going to print Jacob Zuma's T-shirt. They said Comrade Jacob Zuma will not campaign in those provinces. We said that was wrong. It was not the manner, or it is not what is the tradition of the ANC. And we must learn to live the traditions and the values of the ANC.
Let's come back to the province of KwaZulu Natal. You are living as the premier. You were running this province. A number of challenges were there. The issue of COVID-19, the July unrest, and the recent floods. Members of the opposition and leaders of the opposition parties in KwaZulu Natal say good riddance because, according to them, you failed to govern the province.
Well, I believe that most of them have been with us during these difficulties. What have they done? They've done nothing. Not only because they are not in government, even to provide alternatives. The whole opposition, the whole of the opposition parties, when COVID erupted, we called them and say, here is the plan. They were all satisfied with the plan. We even established a structure that is not there constitutionally. We said there will be a team, a committee chaired by the Speaker, with all leaders of the opposition and the Premier briefing that structure continuously. And throughout the COVID-19 period, they were participating. All of them were part of that. Interventions will be developed from the government side. We will go and brief them. So it's just sheer politics that they say so. When we were dealing with the unrest in July last year, we solicited the views of all stakeholders, including the leaders of oppositions and the legislature itself. So they will come with that criticism on the basis that they are in opposition. And it doesn't mean that if the ANC replaces Sihle as a premier, the opposition will love or support that premier. It is us as the ANC who will still have to protect and advance the agenda of the ANC and protect that premier.
But genuinely speaking, Mr. Zikalala, are you happy with the state of the province of KwaZulu Natal? A province plagued by violent crime, a province that has been plagued by lawlessness, a province that is still pretty much underdeveloped. Issues of water, there are protests almost every week in the Ugu district. Looking at the state of the province, would you confidently say that you are happy with the...
Firstly, let us separate the two. They've been disasters. The floods, the COVID-19, the unrest. You wanted to judge us based on those three.
No, but it's how you responded to those.
Yeah. Based on those three, our responses were perfect, and we managed to respond on time and dealt with the situation. Secondly, I would want to dispute that KwaZulu Natal is less developed. It is not less developed. Look on the physical infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of houses. There are basic services that have regressed, either because of the aging infrastructure or because of the lack of resources. And that is in particular water. Water is the main challenge. Even yesterday when I presented that statement, I mentioned that we still have a lot of work to do to ensure that we provide people with water, potable water. So that is what we need to focus on as the ANC going forward. Secondly, yes, but I'm part of the legislature. Those who are in the legislature must support the leadership of the ANC to achieve that. Secondly, we must reactivate the communities to participate in the fight against crime. And I think communities have left everything to government. but also social conditions, especially the high level of unemployment, the high level of drugs, have led to a situation where crime is prevalent in all areas. And we therefore have to activate communities to participate in community policing forums. We need to rid off the police service of those who are rotten potatoes, who are police but are cooperating with criminals. And we need to ensure that the SAPS in particular is efficient, well-resourced, so that they will be able to respond to these challenges.
Your administration was criticized on the way it handled the issue of the Zulu Royal House and the Nazareth Baptist Church. Do you think you could have done things differently in that regard?
Our administration is the one that when the monarchy passed on, His Majesty, King Zwelithini, gave a befitting send-off that has never been seen anywhere. And even the Royal House was grateful. They were quite thankful to us as government.
It's the aftermath of that, though.
When Queen Regent passed on, the same happened. When there was a dispute amongst themselves, we then said, let us follow due processes. We followed due processes. Immediately after the judgment, we started the process toward coronation. And it's us who have been working with the king to ensure that the king and the prime minister, to ensure that the coronation is done with speed. So you will not criticize us of that. With regard to Shembe Church, our view as government has always been that people are at liberty to associate themselves with any church they deem it's good for them. So people have a right. So we've never said, don't go to this church, go here. But the problem has been legal issues amongst Shembe, which have been a problem. And those issues have, maybe to other people, sounded like government has a hand. Government could mediate while judiciary is continuing. Government could do something. It's quite difficult for government to interfere with judiciary process. So even if it was yourself in my shoes, in the position to deal with Shembe Church, matters are in court, you wouldn't have interfered. You wouldn't have stopped the process and take it out from court.
But the people of the Nazareth Baptist Church were not saying stop the processes of the courts because that will be illegal, you cannot interfere. But they were saying in terms of support during those difficult times, the provincial government to try and help them to mediate the conflict. That's where the criticism comes from.
We set a team that was going to mediate. This problem didn't start now. The problem of Shembe Church started around 2011, 2012. So it didn't start now. I think it was during the era of Premium Kize. So Premium Kize managed it to Premier Senzo Mchunu, to Premier Willis Mchunu. So I came in. The fact that I came in when the issues were boiling and in high court doesn't mean that it started now. We have been handling this issue. And if you will talk about the support, the mediation, it was us who were mediating, saying, okay, if the particular group want to go to Nhlangakazi, let the other group go, and when they come down, the other group must go up. Okay. We have been providing support to all of them equally.
In closing, let's talk about your future politically. There are those who are saying perhaps it's time for you now to go to Luthuli House, become one of the officials of the ANC in December. Have you been lobbied? Will you be available to contest for any leadership position in the ANC nationally?
I would prefer to spend more role in my branch, participating and working there. I think one has been in the front line for quite a long time. You all remember that I was the Secretary General of the ANC Youth League. I became the Deputy Secretary for all of the ANC in the province for 1 year, and I became the Secretary. So I've been in the front line. Maybe it's time to support the leadership going forward. But my future is in the ANC, right from my branch or to any other structure.
Do you think ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa should get a second term in December?
You are talking to me as an individual member of the ANC who have a right and a responsibility to put his view in his branch. And I will do so when the BGM is called at my branch in Million Mayo.
What will be that view?
The view will be presented in the branch. You can come. You will be invited if you would want to see and witness for yourself.
Do you think President Ramaphosa should get a second term?
That is not a question that must be answered by me. The branches of the ANC must discuss that and have their own conclusion on the matter.
Thank you very much for time, Baba. You have not officially resigned because you were elected by members of the legislature. So up until there is a sitting in Pietermaritzburg, we shall see you again. Thank you very much for time.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having us in your program.
That's the outgoing Premier of KwaZulu Natal, Sihle Zikalala, reflecting on his legacy and his reign as the Premier of KwaZulu Natal, as he has told the ANC that he will be resigning, but all of that has to be processed by the provincial legislature of KwaZulu Natal. The ANC in the province says they expect that the officials of the party will give them an indication by Monday as to how the interviews of the three candidates would have gone, and by that time they hope that they will be able to give the people of KwaZulu Natal some clarity as to who will be their next Premier.